No, I know. I was just gonna sign it in.
Oh, I never do put it in. That's why I forgot.
The com source.
There we go. You didn't drive your truck today, did you? Yeah. Is it? Parked about that far from your ball hitch behind. No, you're fine. I didn't realize you had one without an extended cab. Those are tough to find.
Standard truck, yeah.
And you would be.
I know you have. Yeah, you should.
Locked the door so they couldn't get in. Oh, I got better.
Oh, is he?
Second quarter.
Told me he had signed up.
I think he said he signed up to come,
See the last
but not to speak.
Okay.
Lost to Tennessee.
A little rough.
Oh, yeah.
Good years of playing.
No, it doesn't. He was like wrestling. He goes.
Really good. They did a great job in their defense.
Wow.
You're not free yet.
Oh no, they're supposed to wear this for.
Please rise for the pledge. you.
Thank you. Mr. Herman and Ms. McDonald are excused from the meeting today. I'd like to begin a moment of silence for Kaylee A. Holcomb, a graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District, and V. Ann Wright, serving 34 years on the Ocm Boasters Board, 26 and a half of which as Ocm Boasters Board President. Thank you. Begin with a proclamation. School administrators, the leaders of public schools, have had a positive impact on students, staff, parents, and members of the community at large. School administrators energize students and staff, respond to student needs, empower others, and recognize and celebrate achievement. School administrators, whether they work directly in a school building or at the district level, share the common goal of providing the foundation environment and professional learning community in which all students can learn and learn well. School administrators are entrusted with the well-being of our community's most precious members, the children. The administrators of the North Syracuse Central School District are professionals of the highest caliber. Students, parents, and staff, community members recognize, applaud, and appreciate their efforts to provide children with a 5-star quality education program. To honor the administrative staff of the North Syracuse Central School District and their accomplishments and efforts on behalf of our community's most valuable resource, the children, I, Paul Farfalia, President of the North Syracuse Central School District Board of Education, on behalf of the Board of Education, express our deepest gratitude to our administrators and proclaim November 5th, 2020 as School Administrator Appreciation Day to be celebrated with appropriate educational activities. So I move to declare November 5th, 2020 as Administrator Appreciation Day in North Syracuse Central School District. Second from Mr. Maurizio. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, our next presentation will be from the North Syracuse Early Education Program.
Can you hear me okay? All right, great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us this evening. I'm here to represent the North Syracuse Early Education Program to share with you our budget presentation. This is for the 1920-21 school year, so I hope this is the right I have here. Let's see. Give me just one second. Okay, sorry about that. Here's the correct presentation. So, although I'm here to present tonight, I just want to give credit to Cindy Serio, who works in our business office, who works tirelessly on our budget year-round, but especially to prepare, this for you all to see. So I'll first start off by talking about our students. As you may or may not know, we are a special education program that operates under the 4410 New York State education law. So we're a special class integrated setting program. In a normal school year, we have 16 children in a classroom, 8 special education students, and 8 general education students. So this year we have had to reduce our class sizes, so we have 12 students in a classroom. We have 8 that are special education students and 4 students that are general education students. So Our student population is down about 100 students from last year, so we have 192 students currently enrolled. We normally have about 300 students, so we're a much smaller population this year. We do offer in-person and remote instruction. We have 16 students right now that are working remotely. The rest of our student population attends school 5 days a week. So we do have students Monday through Friday, and those same students come 5 days a week. Again, in a normal school year, we have 12 classrooms that operate 5 full-day and 7 half-day sections, so it's a total of 19 sections of classes. This year, we have 18 sections of classrooms. We did have to close 1 half-day classroom temporarily. We hope to be able to fill that classroom during the school year as time progresses. So currently, right now, we have 18 special education openings, and we have 19 general education openings, so for a total of 37 openings. We do serve all of Onondaga County. This year, we currently have 8 school districts that are represented in our program. 72% of our students are North Syracuse students this year. And that number fluctuates, I would say, anywhere from 60 to 80%, but usually is in the 70% range. A summary of what our staff looks like, and kind of to give you just a summary of what's different from last year to this year. We have reduced 3 of our instructional positions down to a 0.5 position for that half-day classroom that we had to close half. We have not brought back 2 of our part-time pre-K teaching assistants and a 0.4 OT that we had last year. And we have added 1 custodian to help with COVID cleaning. So this is a kind of an overall view of what our revenue sources look like. Our special education funding for the approved expenses comes 60% from the state and 40% from the county for the tuition rates that you see here for the half-day students and the full-day students. We do not anticipate any tuition increases coming this year. For our parent-paid tuition, we do a market analysis every year, and there was a small increase in tuition from last year to this year. We do that to remain competitive with what other local preschools in the area are offering. We also have eliminated, we had a 2-day-a-week program and a 3-day-a-week preschool program, and we have eliminated those for our general education students and have really only given them the option for a 5-day-a-week program in order to maintain the consistency in the classrooms for exposure for COVID, basically. And then the other funding that you see here is the 611 and 619, the flow-through money that come from the 8 outside districts, the CPSC grant money, and money that we receive from doing evaluations. A summary of our overall estimated revenue. It's just under $5 million. And just to give you a comparison of last year to this year, we are down about $700,000 in this category. About $140,000 of that comes from our general education population that was reduced from the 8 down to 4 in every classroom. The overall view of the expenses that we anticipate for this current school year, the 2021, and it also reflects the actual expenses that we incurred for last school year. So overall, we expect a 4.73% increase. And just to highlight some of the areas that, you know, kind of shine in a higher category than that 4.73, the TVI, the vision and the aids is really just dependent on how many students we have that need the TVI services. Our rent is up because we have factored in there the additional custodian. And our PT category was also at the 8%, a little higher than the building average because we had added a .2 position last year, but it was later in the year, so it wasn't really accounted for. That's a higher increase here. So you can see that our overall expenses are planned to be around $6.5 million. This slide is just a summary pie chart that shows the expenditures in a little different way. And just to point out that 87% of our costs is staff that's working directly with students, IEP mandated services. So I kind of put the rest of this stuff into other financial thoughts because I wasn't really sure where to all put it, but I wanted to summarize some of the other financial things that are going on. So certainly the impact of COVID has been strong, with our program as well as district-wide, countrywide. We have had to lower our class size, as I mentioned. We have had to limit our general education students to a 5-day-week option, so they can't choose 2 days or 3 days. We're not able to fill our spots currently, so we had to close that half-day section. Evaluations were put on hold for children during COVID, so from March until into the summer, minimal evaluations were able to be done. And of course, we're juggling remote instruction versus in-person instruction, just like our K through 12 partners are. Something else that is kind of unknown to us right now, that second bullet, there is a proposal between rate setting and Department of Budget to discontinue the current reconciliation process this year, and the new process has yet to be announced. So we don't really know what that means, but we don't think it's a good thing at this point. So we're not expecting any increases in the near future, and we're not sure what that will do to the waiver process that we normally can apply for in a regular school year. So the good news is we do have adequate fund balance to support the deficit that we're anticipating for this year. The tuition assistance program has been a really nice thing. A couple of years back, the Optimist Club had given us some funding, and we decided to use that for tuition assistance for families in need for our general education population. So we were able to tap into that for families that needed support during COVID times, and we continue to kind of be able to hand out a little bit of money to support tuition for families that are paying for that. We did also qualify for the CEP program again this year, so this is our second year with that. So our students do qualify for free breakfast and free lunch, which has been a really great addition for our students, and had a little bit of a financial impact as far as it saved our program about $10,000, but I think the opportunities for students are much greater. We did qualify as a Title I school this year, which is great. And we will be adding a social worker. She starts next week. So that is a position that had been at the early education program many years ago, before my time, so longer than 10 years ago. And it is a position that we are able to add back now, which is pretty exciting for us. So I thought I'd try to end with some really great positives. We have had some really great improvements this year from some different grant funding sources. So I want to talk first about the Second Step program, which is a systematic social emotional curriculum for young children. So we received a PEDALS grant, which is $1,000 per classroom that participates. So our 5 full-day classrooms are starting this process, and we're hoping to phase in our 7 half-day classrooms next year. So the PEDALS program is nice because the grant funding pays for training for staff. It also pays for 2 years of coaching that comes along with that. It pays for the curriculum materials. It pays for assessment and screening tools, along with what they call sustainability planning. So we want to make sure that after that 2 years of coaching, we're able to sustain the program. So that was pretty exciting for us to be able to participate in. We started that this year. We also have been able to install ViewSonic boards in all 12 of our classrooms, so we've improved the technology for our students, and that we were able to pay for with supplemental funding from Assemblyman Al Sturpey. And the playground by far is probably our most exciting project this year. So you'll hear more about this in our BPT presentation in January, but I thought that it was fitting to mention it here because certainly it does affect a piece of our budget. The playground is about a $300,000 project that was initiated by our entire building, but really one of our physical therapists, Sherry Ritelli, took the lead in the planning and implementation of this project. So these were actually pictures before our students were able to use the equipment. So now it's pretty cool because the kids are out there and they're using the equipment and having so much fun with it. There's a little bit work left still to do. Some of the asphalt that leads up to the playground needs to be finished. That's being tied in with a parking lot project that we have going on as well. So like I mentioned, this is about a $300,000 project. Right now, we have raised just under half of the expenses to cover that. We are still waiting on a couple of grants to hear about that, and we intend to use anything that's left from that. We intend to use some supplemental funding from Assemblyman Al Sturpey to finish funding the project. And I just wanted to kind of just share with you a list of the donors that have contributed to this project. At this point, I think we've gotten everybody captured here, but certainly so many hands have been involved in planning and preparation for this project. So more to come in January. So this is a fun picture. This is kind of some of the compromise that we've had to make in our classrooms. You know, there's no longer sensory tables for the students, but this classroom teacher created individual sensory bins for her students and shared this picture with me. So I thought it was pretty great to share. Our preschoolers are wearing masks and they're social distancing as much as they can, but we certainly have put things into place to make that easier for them. So that is all I have to share for the budget. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions, comments? Thank you.
I wanted to share last year's presentation with you. It was a little bit brighter, but
Okay, it's now time for the 2020 fire inspection report.
Instructions need to be made. Basically, Mr. Gower is no longer with us. He's retired. Any nonconformances that we had found, we have corrected. Occupancy for all of our buildings. And just overview, 17 structures had noncompliances, 14 structures had 4 or less. Structures average 6. Some of the things that we found throughout the buildings, that combustibles on the doors, rescue windows, emergency lighting. We just have so many emergency lights. Or not to have at least one through there. Shared power strips and plugging of appliances. So, but it was an overall good year.
I do. So as you know, we have renovations going on around the district. Do they receive more frequent fire inspections because of that, or just the once a year?
Before they occupy the building.
I do visit Bear Road on a more act of the change.
Yeah.
Make sure things are safe.
Thank you.
I didn't have any questions. It seemed pretty straightforward. I assumed that anything that was a 1, 2, or 3 was corrected, and we're good. Okay. It seems like every year we have the hanging combustibles on doors, window. I think that's just the nature of school buildings. All right. Thank you. Okay, we're at the point of comments from the audience, and so, Mr. Gibson, will you be bringing them in one at a time and remaining with us to be the timer? Yep. Okay.
Friends. Everybody left me.
Good evening, and I'm assuming you're, my list, you're Janelle Kowalski?
That's correct.
And excuse me, and Mrs. Gibson, I'm assuming when they registered, they read the rules that I have in front? Okay, so we haven't done this in a while, so we've taken a bold step to get people engaged again. So Mrs. Gibson in the back will be our timer for 3 minutes, just so you're aware of that. And I don't want to be rude or interrupt you, but when I hear the ding, I'll try and bring you to a closure there, okay?
That's no problem. It's pretty simple. Good evening, everyone. My name is Janelle Kowalski, and I want to thank everyone for their time today. And I want to just discuss with the board about the next time that there is a shortage, for example, of bus drivers, that the parents should be given the option to drop off the children at school for class. And any parents unable or willing to do this should be allowed the option for remote learning. I know there won't be an answer right now, but I just want to kind of have like a step back. I know you guys are so close to the situation, just to see it from a different angle. I mean, we do definitely appreciate what everybody does, because it does take a team to take care of these kids and to try to give them any kind of normalcy. So I thank you, everyone, for that, and just pretty much what I wanted to say.
Okay, I'm just thinking, thank you. Four. And must be Dawn Tice,
Yes,
correct?
hi.
You have that here, and Mrs. Gibson will have the timer in the back in case you hear the ding at 3. But it's yours. Thank you.
Alrighty. Hello, everybody. My name's Dawn Tice. I'm a parent here in the district. We have 3 students, but I'm here tonight representing various parents in the district. First, I'd like to thank everyone for all they are doing for this district and have done. I'm here, as I said, representing numerous parents in the district, specifically to the elementary level of students. Sorry, I'm nervous. Never spoken before the board. We wanted to have a representative. I was the person who had been speaking with numerous parents about some inadequacies we've seen in the hybrid and virtual learning. Numerous parents have talked to administration, superintendents, and they feel at each level of talking, we are being heard, parents feel they're being heard, but even as we're told, they've been discussing this for months on end. Even recently, an administrator said they've been dealing with these same concerns for 8 months, the same concerns regarding the hybrid virtual learning. Our concerns are inconsistencies throughout the models that the district is using currently right now. They're very black and white inconsistencies at the elementary level. I actually have a quick quote that is from your guys' minutes from last, I believe a few weeks ago, a meeting. All students, regardless of their teacher or school, will have access to the same content, knowledge, and skills. The curriculum is realistic in scope and developmentally appropriate and challenging for all students. I loved when I saw this quote. This is what a group of parents and I personally are fighting for our kids. We are here tonight, me as a person, but for a large group of parents at the elementary level, requesting that we are being heard, the inconsistencies that are being delivered at the elementary level is inadequate for an education for these students. We appreciate our teachers, our administration, everything everyone is doing, but it is excruciating to watch what is being delivered from a second grade teacher, say Mrs. Cooler, who is a phenomenal teacher, breaks down specific, awesome, should be writing the model for certain virtual learning, and then we have other teachers, no virtual learning occurring at all. No Zooms, no, 30 minutes of hellos and highs. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to mention names, but I was praising her. I would never speak someone's name otherwise. But to have these inconsistencies of teachers, thank you. Could I give you something I typed up?
Yes, please. Anything in writing you want to submit to Mrs. Gibson, and she'll make sure we all get a copy. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
First, I want to thank all of you guys here for giving me an opportunity to address you today. My name is Sarah Stockton, and I'm the mother of a pre-K and third grader at CNS. I'm also a professor, a licensed marriage and family therapist with a private practice here in North Syracuse. Sorry, this is tough. Whew. Today I'm here as a concerned mother and as a mental health professional, desperately calling on us parents, teachers, and administrators to realize the need to come together and prioritize the mental health of our children, specifically in CNS. The implications from this epidemic will require us to be more proactive than ever before. One thing that is unique and different about this pandemic is the effect of mental health on individuals that we would normally consider stable, meaning that they had their basic needs met. But however, during this pandemic, we have locally and nationally seen a dramatic increase in suicide, substance abuse, and abuse within all households. This increase, however, is not coming from the already identified risk population or the people we knew needed or received additional support of some sort. Everyone is being impacted in dramatic ways. This is a trend we are seeing locally. I have never been busier than ever before, in which that is great. I am thrilled that people are reaching out for help, but I don't think people realize how many people are suffering in silence. I have parents calling me all the time. When people are in crisis, we have a fight, flight, or freeze response. Many of us are almost frozen. COVID fatigue, some call it. Our administrators are drowning, our teachers, our parents, our children are drowning. We have to come together and prioritize this now. For the administrators that have lost sleep making decisions that will never please anyone, thank you for your transparency, technology, surveys, and attempts to hear our voices and concerns. But I am calling on you to please continue prioritizing our voices and concerns and let us know as parents who can make the decisions if you cannot. Check in on our teachers. They are being asked to work in ways like never before, the majority of them learning how to teach online for the first time themselves, myself included. I personally want you to understand the complexity of the families in this district and how we need to consider the mental health prior to some of the decision making. As a parent from a split household, the hybrid model complicates these issues times 100. Often parents are already overworked and now incorporating a whole new set of issues. I want us to remember that parents should help educate their children, but parents are not teachers. The mental impact of having parents trying to perform tasks that they are not yet equipped for could be far more damaging than not having them do it at all. This is going to call on us to come together like never before. I will be working with the district on how to be more proactive about the mental health needs of our students and our families and continue how to brainstorm how we can connect better. On the COVID website, you have to go all the way down to the very, very bottom right for wellness. And I don't even know if people would know what that means. So this is going to call on all of us to come together like never before, like I said, and I hope that we can continue to prioritize our special children, and I pray for each and every one of you, administrators, staff, teachers, parents, and children, that we can overcome this together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we know this guy.
Good evening. For those of us who don't know me here, I am Mike D'Onofrio. I'm a alumni, lifetime resident, and parent of two children in the district, one that is in 9th grade, one that is in 4th grade. I come today to talk to you about both of them, I suspect. Some of this will be a little redundant. So let's start with 9th grader, virtual learner, full-time virtual learner, not hybrid. And starting here, I'll say that it hasn't gone well. He's not the best virtual learner. And I guess this is conversations I've had with some of the other people in this room, and it has to do with my take on communication and the means in which the curriculum is delivered. In the case of my son specifically, his teachers, very few of them actually teach well at all, and I'm not trying to minimize this, but they don't have any Zoom lessons. What they have is classwork on the website, and for a kid in 9th grade, it's difficult to learn when you have nobody teaching you how, what you should be doing. I mean, that would be high expectations for somebody that was in college, let alone somebody that's in 9th grade. For what he's doing, it would be often simplified simply by adding some Zoom classes. I had this conversation actually with George recently, and that, we don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel here is, and, as it stands now, students could spend 15% of their school career doing this. It's kind of a big chunk of time. And when we look at that, we can't minimize the way that we do this, because it's not just a passing fad. It's not something that's going to go away next month, despite what some people might say. It's not. And because of that, I've had conversations with at least a couple teachers that have told me specifically, his teachers, that don't do any Zoom lessons. And I've learned already, after a month or so, it's not going good. I mean, he has a tutor that we got him now so that he does at least some interaction with somebody on some basis to at least get some firsthand instruction, just to try and help out and assist in that. let me move on to my next topic, because that's what really got me here today. And it has nothing to do with COVID, mind you. So this is probably a good thing, I suppose, based on some of the other talks here. And it's going to talk specifically about special education. And more so, I'll just say students with IEPs. And what really kind of disturbs me is the fact that even today, in 2020, I still have people come to me about issues they have relative to the services they're provided. Or shall I say this differently? I still have people that still get attorneys to fight for what's legally requirements for their students' education. People that move out of the district. And this sort of bothers me as a lifetime resident and alumni of the district. And this all comes back to something I've talked about for years. Some of it's pretty basic. I hit my 3 minutes already? Oh my God, I talk too slow. Let me wrap this up quickly and say this. Customer service. That's what I've always spouted out about, is customer service. When you start to treat people like customers and less like students, it changes the perspective. If you treat it like a business and you treat people as if you're trying to satisfy their needs and working towards making them successful, it changes the perspective on how we actually educate students, how we talk to people, how we treat people. That being said, I may have to make a return talk, just so I can finish my... Yeah, absolutely make a return in anything you want to submit. Yeah, as you well, I'm know. more of a talker than a typer, but apparently I talk more than 3 minutes. Well, come back. We're just starting to dip Yeah, well, I'll into see you this next week. new, We'll so- knock off 3 this week, 3 in 2 weeks, and probably a month or 2 from now, we can get it all done. So, Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Hey. Okay, we're at Board of Education Committee reports. I will start with Ms. Scanlon, and we have several policies brought before us today. So your committee did a lot of work, and you did it via Zoom, huh?
Yeah, we did.
It's a lot of policies.
Yep, we met last Tuesday on the 13th via Zoom, as you said. We welcomed one of our new student reps join the committee, and her name is, Samantha Klein, and we look forward to working with her. She's a junior, and she's an athlete and a wonderful student, and we look forward to her participation. Both of our student rep positions are now filled, and I want to thank Jamie Sullivan for that. We reviewed 11 policies, and they're all on the agenda tonight. 9 are amend and readopt, and 2 are readopt without change. And our next meeting is November 10th.
Hey, thank you very much. Mr. Crabtree, I know you have the upcoming meeting.
I know you're excited about it. Connie and I worked on the agenda, and it should be out tomorrow, because we feel it's a very important meeting. It's October 28th. It's next week, 5 to 6. And I added a new parent, and I see we have a new student also. I'm thinking Mr. Bowles helped out there. So we will be meeting, and thank you, Paul, for your ideas, and Dan for your ideas, and a couple other people gave me ideas, because we've got a long haul. So see you next week.
All right, thank you, and I'll move right into your Ocm Boasters Report. I know you sent one out, we received one today.
Okay, I got to let you know that if there's spelling mistakes, I don't have spell check. And I went through it 3 times and gone through some difficulties, so.
Are you using ClarisWorks, or?
I have
Okay.
something that's prehistoric, okay?
Like ClarisWorks? I'm sorry. Okay.
You're not funny. All right, just a few items, but if you ever have questions about the report, you have my email. But just a few things. We had a meeting last Thursday, and we appointed Dr. Matthew Cook from the Newark School District as our new district superintendent for Ocm Boasters. Well-qualified, former social worker, former alcohol counselor, and so forth. He cares about kids, and we're glad we got him, and he'll start November 1st. And we had a special presentation, which was awesome. We were given the New York School Boards Association Champions of Change banner. This is given to very few school districts in New York State. And our Area 4 Director, who happens to be a Vice President now of the New York School Boards Association, Sandra Rufo, presented this to us. It'll be hanging, Dan will get to see it when he goes to our next meeting. That's a high honor for our embedded programs, all the things with our students at Drivers Village and so forth. Now comes the hard part for me. Thank you, Connie. It meant a lot to me that you put Ann Wright on the moment of silence. As you said, she was president of the school board for 26 and a half years, on the school board for 34 years. You don't be on something if you don't love it and care about people and care about kids. Ann started out as a PTO president over in JD, decided that move on and be on the JD School Board, and later president of the JD School Board, and also on BOCES. She cared about people, she cared about kids, and the things she loved were things that I loved. I was appointed by you people. I remember that day, and I appreciate it, Mary and the others that were on the school board, because I love BOCES, and I love coming here and telling you about it, and loving our kids being part of this program. When I lost somebody very close to me 3 years ago, you were all there, but Ann was especially there for me. She would call me every week. Every week I got a phone call for the last 3 years about how I was doing, what was going on, and we wouldn't just talk about North Syracuse, we talked about BOCES, we talked about life. She was a mentor to me and made me laugh. She read a lot, so I started reading books that she thought were good, and we started going to BOCES events in Cortland, and of course when you're in the car, as you know, you can talk about everything and anything. She loved our programs in Cortland. You know, a lot of people don't realize that we have the same programs that we have in Onondaga County down there. So we have double the amount of programs. And she especially liked, in the spring, the special ed musical, spring show. And I know when Dan first got appointed, he was just appointed by you people, he came to the show down to Roxborough, and Ann was with me, and how special that is for special ed kids to get up on the stage. She just loved that. But her other love was the Career Technical Advisory Council. We meet 3 times a year with all the businesses that want to be part of BOCES. Again, Drivers Village, the hospital, Lockheed Martin. She always thanked them every meeting for helping us become what we are. I am going to miss her truly. Michael knew her very well. She would always go over and talk to Mike. And we've lost somebody that you can't replace. You can't replace. But we elected on Thursday our Vice President, Wayne Bronson, who represents ESM as our president, and Joan Reeves, who represents Beeville, as our vice president. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Superintendent Bowles.
Thank you. First thing, there's several things that our parents and our staff have expressed as concerns, and one of the things that we will be doing within the next week and a half is conducting a survey so that we can hear what are the staff and teacher needs, and then also what are the needs of parents. And we're hearing some of those coming out tonight, but we want to do a thorough job to make sure we're hearing all voices. We did get K through 2. We held on to the Chromebooks a little longer in school in order to teach kindergarten, first, and second grade, just logging on and things, but all of those have been distributed, so those are home with kids that will help with instructional purposes. We are hearing from parents about hot lunches, and I've talked to Mr. Keegan, and As of last week, we started more hot lunches at middle school, and by November, there'll be pretty much a regular thing at all the elementary schools as well. So again, listening to concerns and trying to be responsive. One of the things that took place last week was we went to a remote day kind of very quickly based on what we heard about shortage of drivers. And we are putting out some expectations when we do go remote. What happens when a teacher gets quarantined? What happens when a teacher and student or students from the class get quarantined? Or what happens when an individual building or the entire district may have to do a long-term, it could be 10 to 14 days as you're seeing in some other districts that are out there. So we will be working on putting out those expectations and those guidelines. I had the opportunity last Friday as I went to visit a school, and I just was passing by a classroom, and the teacher waved me in, and the teacher had about 8 students sitting there. It was a hybrid day, and they had a science project, a science lesson going on, and in fact, it was about lip balm, and when does it freeze or when does it melt, and if they add a certain oil to it. And she was asking about predictions and what was the hypothesis of the student in class at the time. And then she turned to her screen, and there was about 7 or 8 students on the Zoom at the same time, and asked the young lady what did she think. And they all had their kits out, and it was a high-end lesson, and I just happened to be passing by at the right time. So there are things that are happening that are they easy? Absolutely not. The teachers are working hard, parents are working hard at home, students are working hard. What I'd like to ask is that we're all learning together. There's some people that are cruising with their technology. Some are still working on it. I would like to put something out just as far as expectations for communication as you're communicating back and forth with us at school. Trying to make sure we're not emailing or sending things at 7, 8, and 9 o'clock at night and expecting an answer first thing. Trying to make sure we're protective of weekends for people, because it's not an easy go, and again, give an ample amount of time to respond for the staff, because I think right now with technology, everything is instantaneous for people, and they don't understand if I'm not teaching right now in front of one child, I'm teaching in front of other children at that time. So we are working on some of these things, but again, I think we're going to have to put out just some general guidelines so that everybody is on the same page. Aside from that, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Board of Education comments? Yes.
Yes. I think many of you know I'm actively involved with the canteen. Can you hear me? I can't tell if this is picking me up. Actually, through the youth board, through Zero, and been in contact with Tony and Amy, who run the canteen, and with Dan Bowles. I was very happy to see a parent representative here talk about the mental health of the student. Through the canteen, they see that there more than any of us do. Teachers may see it, but often anybody who's had any exposure to psychology knows that you see the mental health issues when it comes to play, when it comes to downtime, when it comes to non-classroom time, when kids are relaxed and they start to open up and you have those one-on-one conversations with them. So Amy and Tony are getting that exposure to a level that we really need to discuss, and we will. This week, we're going to try. I was out of town, so we couldn't do it quicker, but now that I'm back, we're going to try to coordinate something. But I was very pleased to see someone come in and talk about how difficult it is for the kids. I think it's even more difficult than we are aware of as a board. So I'd like to bring that to the forefront with Tony and Amy, and possibly if the student representative with the canteen, we've asked her to come in and talk if she is comfortable doing that. because the kids themselves have more exposure to other kids than even the adults do. And so there is a discussion about bringing those services more to the forefront where they may be easier to find, or we have to be so in tune to how a child is interacting because that could be the subtle sign that something's wrong. We have to be more diligent. And I just wanted to thank that parent representative and bringing this to the attention of the board.
Well, thank you, because what caught my attention right away was that we're seeing it in individuals that are not already identified as at risk, and that really jumped out at me, so thank you. Other comments? Yes.
Yes, I do. I very much appreciated the comments from the parents tonight, and I also appreciated, Dan, that you acknowledged their comments. I know all these models are new, and we're, 2 months in now, but it sounds like we have some more work to do, especially on engagement with the students. So I know we'll be working on that. Thank you.
And just an added piece, we did call Tony the next day, and we're setting up a meeting, but more important, Lisa Goldberg, and I did have an exchange with the parent that came, but we're setting up a district-level SEL committee that will have parents, that will have teachers, that will have administrators, but most important, they'll have students. We want to make sure we're hearing from students what's happening out there and what we need to know. And I was with Mrs. Goldberg before this meeting, and she will be sending something out to get that started.
Yeah, I must have been thinking what I was thinking is, I know you have a superintendent-student group, and I thought they would be ones that you might want to survey, but now you're going to have students on this committee that would be good. Have we given the staff a survey at all? I know you're going to give one to parents, which I think is phenomenal.
What I said, we were going to be doing both. We have one for staff, because we want to know their needs, whether their needs, not only SEL needs, but also technology needs. So those will be going out probably simultaneously.
I apologize. Well, this week is a special week. I won't ask you, Mr. President, what it is. October 19th to 23rd is School Board of Recognition Week by the New York State School Boards Association. And I want to appreciate all my fellow school board members. I think we have, I know we're going to have a retreat soon, but I think we have an excellent school board. I brag about you a lot at BOCES. When I hear a certain school district goes from 5 to midnight, and they still don't have things solved. You are wonderful people, all of you. You all have different ideas. We come from different backgrounds, but we come together. And I wanted to let you know you're appreciated.
Thank you, and we'll try to only do 6 to midnight. Yeah, thank you. And just on the topic, I was just going to quickly mention, with regard, you brought up the retreat, and Mr. Marizio and I met with Mr. Bowles, and I have a kind of a draft agenda, and again, it's very light because we don't have a lot of time, but I will get that out to you for comment. I'm going to wait till right after the first board meeting in November so we don't confuse it with the timelines. And we'll move forward with this little mini retreat, see how it works, and I think if we can do that, maybe we can do some more as we go forward, but that'll be up to the group. Right. Routine action items, if I could get a motion for A, the consideration of the minutes of the last meeting of the Board of Education from October 5th. Motion from Terry, second from George. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I'd like to combine B, C, and D, if I get a motion, but they are the classification of the placement of disabled students by the CSE District Committee for disabled students preschool and home instruction. I get a motion from Mr. Thorne, motion from Mrs. Scanlon. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item A, please, amendments to the July 6, 2020 annual organizational meeting. If I can have a motion to A, motion from Terry, seconded from Mrs. Scanlon. Any questions or discussion on that? None, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Motion for B, recommendation to create a .3 FTE special ed teacher to add to an existing .5 to create a total of a .8 full-time equivalent. George, second from Terry. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. I will combine C and D, motions to authorize type 2 seeker resolution for the roofing projects. Motion from Mark, second from Terry. Any discussion on that? None, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item E, request to approve the corrective action plan for management letter as required by the Office of the State Comptroller. Motion from Ann. None, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Motion for F, surplus of non-marketable equipment. Motion from Mark, second from George. List this time. Any discussion? None, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Permission from the chair, I'd like to combine all the policies G through P. If I get a motion to that, motion. Mark, the policies are before us. Seeing them in the email and the summaries from Mrs. Ganlon. Any comments?
I just wanted to say that BOCES now has started this 3 years ago, and that was Superintendent. BOCES never looked at their policies, and because of what you've done, they have copied your procedure, and so I wanted you to know that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had nothing to do with it, but Matt got the phone call when she was superintendent. They didn't look at their policies. They would just put them away, and then they would take out the ones that they wanted to talk about. But the way that you do it, the cycle 3 years, is phenomenal, Connie.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Those are carried. We have retirement to recognize today. It is Susan Straub, elementary teacher, retiring with 33 and a half years of service. And I believe, if not mistaken, she was a Teacher of the Year here. I remember seeing her speak at one of the opening days. Phenomenal from what I've heard and what I know.
Library.
Yes. Book Van Gogh, the name
Yes,
was,
I
I
couldn't think
was
of it.
trying to think of the name
I
as you
couldn't
said
think of
that,
it either.
yes. Instructional personnel report, A, not personal report, sorry, that's for later. Personnel report, motion from Mr. Crabtree, seconded from Terry. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Motion for instructional support staff personnel report, B, motion from Mr. Thorne, seconded from George. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. I'll make a motion to move into executive session and ask for a second. It will be for the purpose of reviewing the employment history of 2 individuals with no action to follow. Second from Mr. Maurizio. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. And a motion, please, for adjournment. Motion from Mrs. Scanlon, second from Mr. Harrington. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. I assure you, I do know all your names. It's just thank you, but try this. I mean, I just go and it's like I want to say Mark, then I'm Mr. Thorne, and I want to say I probably should just stick to all formals, but seems like I get stuck on it, Mr. Thorne. I don't know why. And all your names point towards me, right? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was busy moving all little pointers for you also.